Greg DiPasquale, he was Dennis Bermudez's coach. And he texted my partner Ryan about this guy named Ashika Jim. Long Island guy, New York, 10-0 in the amateurs, 3-0 in the pros. Heavy hands, good grappling. Okay. You've probably heard stories similar to this, but probably not quite with that good of a record. I don't overly get lost in the amateur versus pros. Your record is your record if and only if you're undefeated. If you're completely undefeated, then your record gets to be your record in some parts, right? I mean, that's not going to be the official. Here, let me give you an example because perhaps you don't know this if you don't have a jurisdiction that does this. Amateur MMA. We have it here in Oregon, but amateur MMA, who is regulated by the same commission that does professional MMA, as a way of ensuring that we have a like talent going against like talent. Very similar to what the NCAA does, very similar to what the Olympic Games does, just makes a very clear distinction between the two. And it doesn't have anything to do with the rules. Doesn't have anything to do with what you wear into the ring. Doesn't have anything to do with how you train or who corners you. It doesn't even have anything to do with the time and the duration of the rounds. It only has to do with, did you get paid or did you not? If you did not get paid, you qualify as amateur. If you took pay, you qualify as a pro. Oh, and by the way, you can never then return to the amateur. So you can see where even within the simplicity, the very, very simplicity of that rule, you can see where that rule works. It absolutely is a great way to make the distinction. I only share that with you because I could not tell you how many amateur fights I have seen where those guys went into the UFC. Ryan Healy fought Brad Blackburn in Brad's second fight and Ryan's first fight ever. They both went into the UFC. I fought Trevor Prangley. We rematched in the UFC. I'm just giving you a couple of examples. The amateurs very much matter, particularly when you have a zero in front of it. So this gentleman, Jim, as far as I'm concerned, is 13-0. You decide if I'm right or not, but pretty impressive. Been up to bat 13 times, 13 training camps, 13 weigh-ins, and he got it done. Now, DiPasquale, his coach, is asking a very simple question. What do I do with this guy? What do I do with this guy? Because nobody will fight him. He's happy to stay on the scene. He's happy to get the rise. He's happy to work his way through. What do I do with him? And that is a very complicated answer that there is not just one. There's not just one recipe and one blueprint and formula to copy on. Okay. I've seen a couple of guys that I have seen and I can come and bring to you who, because nobody would fight them on the smaller scene, was enough to impress Dana White that he signed them. I've seen that happen where Scott Coker got impressed enough at what the guy had done, the reputation he had, and the fact that this guy was basically put in a purgatory where he could not get any matches unless he got signed to a major promotion. But I could count those guys in less than 5 fingers. They got called with the backing of somebody with a very good reputation. Give you one example was Cain Velasquez, but he was 7-0. He was 7-0 and nobody would fight him, and that was legit. That was not tough guy talk. He couldn't get any matches. He was going to Russia to find matches. He was going into Mexico to find matches. I mean, he was having to leave the country for very low-level matches because there was somebody that said, I think I can beat you, or I'll at least give you the chance to prove you can beat me. It was just one of these really tough things, but he had Javier Mendez call Dana White on his behalf. So Dana didn't have to go look into the story and find out and see if there was a regional guy out there somewhere that would fight Cain. He knew because it was Coach Javier, this is what's happening. And DiPasquale, in large part, is in the same position. He's a very respected man. I've known him a decade through friends of friends. I know Dennis very well. I know Ryan Parsons very well. I feel as though I know Coach DiPasquale. I would walk right up to him and say hello, and I wouldn't introduce myself. I feel like we know each other. When he's coming to you and he's telling you, I got a guy that's 13-0 and nobody will fight him, that quite simply means he has a guy who's 13-0 and nobody will fight him. And if he's reaching out by extension to a friend of mine, I assume he wants my opinion. Right or wrong, but that's how I'm assuming this. Look, time out. For Coach DiPasquale, I was just in this spot. With a teammate of mine named Austin Springer. And Austin Springer, who trusts me, called me. And he said, what do I do? So I do everything right. And he said, on top of that, I'm a nice guy. I never get in trouble. I have all of my paperwork done on time. I'll get my photos to the poster department. I will do anything that I need to do from a professional standpoint. What do I need to do? And I said, Austin, I don't know. And he specifically said, what do I need to do for Sean Shelby to think? I said, I don't know. But I will call Sean Shelby right now and I will ask him that question. So I will have the answer and not have to guess. And that's what I did. And Sean was very candid and forthright. I said, Sean, is any part of this conversation quiet? He said, no, absolutely not. He said, I'm actually going to tell you something that I have to do many times a day within my job, which is to explain we're in a different wave right now. We're in a different wave because of everything going on, the amount of shows that we have and the amount of fighters that we contractually owe opportunity to. The biggest opportunity right now. And I knew what Sean was saying. I'm adding words to it, but what he's saying is if you call me in 6 months, we could be in a different spot and I could give you a slightly different answer. He was very specific to say right now. He said the biggest vehicle that we have is the Dana White Contender Series. If you can come to the Dana White Contender Series, and Coach DePasquale, I'm looking at this and I'm going 13-0. I'll give a damn if 3 of those are pros. If you got a guy named Jim who is 13-0, it's going to matter. It's very relevant, particularly if those fights are coming out in New York. That's just something that leadership is going to understand. They're going to understand what I'm saying. They could get him an opportunity. That's not a promise of an opportunity, but I'm answering the question that is the best vehicle for an opportunity. Option 2 is to be ready. And that's the same option that's been around that has transcended time. That goes back to the Joe Silva era. If you are simply ready, you scroll the internet, you see an opening, and you can make weight on short notice, boom. Always a good spot to be in. That's the road that nobody ever wants to go down, by the way. And that is the easy, that is the quick, that is the fastest track guarantee right there. That is the one. And I'm personalizing it a little bit because that was my road. But I only share that it was my road with you because that dates back to 2005, which was a totally different company with a totally different decision maker. And that was his policy and it has lived on. I share that with you. The other side of the coin that I would like to finish my story with is Austin Springer, who called me, who had me call Sean Shelby. Austin Springer, on 4 days' notice last week, got a phone call. Hey, remember when you said you could make weight and have paperwork done on an instant? Yeah, I remember saying that. Can you get on a plane today? Yeah, I can get on a plane today. Did. Got everything done. He said he would do, made weight, and made that walk, and is now a signed fighter with 2 more fights to go on his contract, just by example. So when I tell you that that works, that does work. It works very much. 13-0 is very impressive. Is there any reason out there why people aren't fighting him? What weight is this guy is something else. If you want my help, if you want me to be helpful here, I'll help you to scan the internets and find out what's going on. I'll help to report back to you when there's some kind of information. I do need to know what his weight class is. And we're not going to stop. We're going to find this guy a match. We're going to find a match somewhere. But I am going to help you. If there's any promoter out there that wants a guy who is 13-0, 3-0 in the pros, 135 pounders. His name is Ashika Jim. You find a fight for him. I will cover all the travel. Him, his corner, however that works, airline tickets, hotels, grand transportation. Take that off your plate. Let's not make this about money. You work out whatever it is you work out. He'll get his paperwork done. Let's find out. Let's find out if he's telling the truth. Is it really a case of nobody will fight him?